This episode is powered by Laila Safaee Consultancy. Have you ever felt like your estate agency's running you instead of the other way round? You know, you should be doing more on social media, you've hired more staff, but you're not seeing the return and you're still using the same old systems and checklists that just don't cut it anymore. You're busy keeping things moving, but deep down, you know there's a smarter, more modern way to grow your business. That's exactly where I come in. I'm Laila Safaee, and through my consultancy, I help estate agents and property professionals see their business with fresh eyes. With over 15 years of experience and a proven record of transforming brands and teams, I help you spot what's easy to miss when you're caught up in the day-to-day. If you're ready to elevate your agency, book your free 30-minute clarity call and let's see if we're the right fit to work together. Just head to lailasafaee.com to get started, and while you're there, you can request my latest case studies too. Welcome back to Spilling the Tea with Laila Safaee, the podcast where we have real, unfiltered conversations about business, life, and everything in between. Today's guest is someone I've actually had the pleasure of being interviewed by before when I was in the absolute chaos of selling my estate agency. He's smart, calm under pressure, and genuinely one of the most interesting people shaking up the property world, the brilliant Simon Gates. Simon's on a mission to become the most useful person to follow for UK estate agents, and honestly, he is doing just that. He's worked his way up from weekend assistant to managing one of the top offices in the country, built a name as a trusted voice in the industry, and now hosts the hit podcast Opening the Gates, helping agents get more listings, more confidence, and more results. He's also voted the most influential UK estate agency personality of 2024, which, let's be honest, is a serious flex. But beyond all the titles and LinkedIn accolades, Simon's someone who actually cares about people, about progress, and about keeping the industry human while it evolves. And that's exactly why I wanted to have him on this podcast. In the episode, we're talking about ambition, leadership, reinvention, and what it's really like to build credibility and influence in a world that's constantly changing. So grab your iced matcha, settle in, and let's spill the tea with Simon Gates. Simon, welcome to Spilling the Tea.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like I've got the encyclopedia of estate agency in the room.
I'll take that.
Yeah, it is a compliment. So we always start these podcasts with how we know each other. Do you want to how did we meet each other?
I would say at the time of recording, it must have been just over a year ago, 18 months. And this is a great example of personal brand and the power of social media, because I recognised you at Wembley when we were seeing Samuel Lees and Jordan Belfort speak. And I was having a coffee, and I think you and someone you were there with come and sat next to me. I'd had a few coffees, so I was like caffeinated up. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Laila from Instagram. I'm going to go say hello. And yeah, we had a chat, and I think we loved each other's energy. And then I said to you, I've got a podcast. Do you want to come on my podcast? Which I think we did a couple of months later. And then, yeah, we've stayed in touch since.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, you're welcome. It was brilliant to have you. Again, having watched you from afar on socials and seen, again, the power of personal brand, it was brilliant to have you on. It was a really good conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think you caught me on a really hyperactive day, and I don't know why, but I feel like there was great value. It was a very different episode for you, wasn't it?
Very different, yeah.
Very different. But there's something about that, and I feel like I need to do part B, because it was a really strange time in my career. Well, you know this anyway, because I didn't say on the podcast, but I was in the middle of selling my business. So there was a lot of, I'm doing this, but I wasn't and I was just so hyperactive and swearing way too much. That's one thing.
But I think I don't know about you, but the feedback I'd had, particularly from women and perhaps younger women, but then also men from a neurodiverse background, loved how authentic you were and talking openly about those things. And it's something I want more of on my podcast, is women and younger women, because if I look at the demographic of my audience, I am like what my audience looks like, a man in his 30s.
Yeah.
But I think it's about 20% of my guests and 20% of my listeners are women. But I would like to try and grow that.
Why do you think that is? Genuine question.
I think because I'd say our algorithms and social media, what's the word I'm looking for? Reaffirms your subconscious. So like you scroll through socials and it will be like, right, he's looking at or she's looking at that, and you kind of follow what you perhaps already believe in. So it doesn't surprise me that estate agents who are in their 30s is the typical demographic who listens to my podcast, because they're like, oh, I can relate to this guy. He's an estate agent person in his 30s.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, if I was a woman, I'd be like, well, 80% of the guests are men. Perhaps I'm not relating to them. Whereas if there was more women as guests, it'd be more relatable. So I think that's part of it.
So do you think you're going to target, sounds really predatory, and I don't mean it like that, but are you going to try and target more women like in the industry?
So here's an interesting point on this, and I'd be curious to know your thoughts on this, because when I said, would you be a guest on the podcast, you were like, yeah, I'd love to. Booked it in, we recorded it. I find it really difficult to get women to say yes to be a guest on a podcast. And actually, if I was to look at episodes not recorded because a guest cancelled or didn't turn up, it is usually a woman, and it's usually a woman of a younger age. And I think there's a study or something that's like, if a man ticks 6 out of 10 boxes for a job promotion, they'll go for it. Whereas a woman needs to tick 10 out of 10 boxes to think that they're adequate to go for it. So I've certainly found that. And I had an industry meetup recently of about 20 suppliers across the estate agency. And it was really difficult to get women to attend. There was, I think, out of 20 of us, only one woman there.
That's really like disappointing, actually. It'd be interesting to understand. There must be more to the psyche. I think it's the approach, Simon.
I've not got the right approach.
No, you have got the right approach. Like, for example, take me and you meeting.
Yeah.
I think if you can get these people in person and then they feel your energy and they see that, they're in a safe place with you. You're not there putting them. I don't believe your podcast, you're like putting people in a room to like make them feel uncomfortable or try and trip them up, or do you know what I mean? We were talking about this before we had, but because I think your energy, did it for me.
Thank you.
Because otherwise you overthink, don't you?
Yeah.
And there is that man-woman thing, which I don't care what anyone says, that is just there. So.
Yeah, 100%. I think that when you look at the estate agency industry, you typically think of an old white man, really. And that's something I would say I'm fearful of. I don't want to be that guy in 20 years. I want people to still feel I'm relatable. Because for me, I think part of the reason I do the podcast is when I was an estate agent in my 20s, there were perhaps trainers, consultants, coaches, mentors out there, but they're perhaps more like a father, whereas I was looking for an older brother.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm maybe a bit of an older brother to quite a few people in the industry, which is what I felt I was missing when I was an agent.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, actually. Just before we we were talking about, I said, did you go to uni? Because we started doing a little bit of off-cam political stuff, which we won't bring to here. So you didn't go to uni, and you said you knew you wanted to be an estate agent.
Yeah. Throughout my adolescence, I knew I wanted to be an estate agent. My godfather owned a very successful estate agency, still does. And I just saw the lifestyle he had, and I was like, that's a bit of me. I don't need to be qualified. You just need to be able to hold a conversation, do what you say you were going to do, offer good customer service. So I went into that at 16. So I did work experience summer of 2007.
Did you do it with him?
Yeah. So I think I did a couple of weeks with him. I also spent time in London. So you said about politics. I did some work experience at the Houses of Parliament.
Oh, how was that?
Interesting. And then I also did some work experience for, I don't know if they still are, but at the time they were the law firm for the royal family called Farrers.
Oh, wow.
So I spent this whole summer, estate agency, law firm, politics, London, etc. My mum and dad at the end of summer were like, right, like, what do you want to do? I don't know, maybe they thought I would see the bright lights of London and maybe want to go off to uni. I was like, no, still want to be an estate agent. So they told me to do my A-levels in case that didn't work out. But I used to finish school at lunchtime. I wouldn't have afternoon lessons. And then I would go into the estate agency, work afternoons, work weekends. And I think my first day was maybe in June or July 2009, full-time, the day after my last exam.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good memories.
Yeah.
Was that, so what year would that have been? When I came in, Rightmove was just creeping in, and it was the death of the property paper where people used to just advertise in the paper.
Yeah, well, the company I was in were heavily invested in the newspapers. They always had the most pages in the local property. So Northampton Chronicle and Echo, Milton Keynes Citizen. You'd be sat there in the office knowing it would come out on a Thursday, and you'd be looking at the pages and whatnot, and it'd be a bit of a egotistical thing of, I remember back now you saying it, where it's like, God, that estate agent's dropped from 5 pages to 4. Now they've dropped to 3 to 2 to 1 to nothing. Like you'd say on an appointment, oh, they must be struggling, like they're not in a newspaper anymore. That's kind of what you were taught to believe. So yeah, it was an interesting time because through '07 to '09, I experienced a boom to bust market. It's actually like the best market I could have started working because I understood both sides of the coin of the market there.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because I think when I first started, there was an older school estate agent who are still using a fax machine at that point. They had a message book on top of the filing cabinet. And I'm like, you can send a message to each other in the CRM to say, ring back Laila or whatever. And they're like, oh, really? Can you do that? They're just using a message book on top of a filing cabinet. Like, yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Nostalgic.
It is nostalgic because I think, like, to go forward to 2025, before we hit record, I've shown you an epic video on Instagram of an estate agent's new listing, which is unbelievable. You wouldn't have imagined that 15, 20 years ago. But it does feel like we have moved a bit into an order-taking industry.
What do you mean by that?
Most estate agents, I'll be controversial now, most estate agents stick a house on Rightmove and wait for the phone to ring. Fact.
Yeah.
Whereas I would have a manager, in my early days, walk into the office and go, I've got a 4-bed detached on such and such a street, punt it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the owner's name? Where are they moving to? Can I see it? What's the price? Simon, get on the phone. I expect 3 viewings before the end of the day. Whereas now I think, yeah, an agent will just stick it on Rightmove, and if the phone doesn't ring, they'll say the market's quiet. But actually, they're not launching a property to market, they're just listing it.
Yeah. So I would say that you're probably one of the most, and in fact, you've been awarded this, one of the most influential people in agency.
Yeah.
How did you go from, talk me through that, because for anyone listening that doesn't know who you are, like you've gone from being an estate agent in such a peak time of learning as well,
Yeah.
to now having a really successful podcast, which is solely based around estate agency,
Yeah.
Opening the Gates,
Yeah.
which Simon Gates, clever.
Yeah, so I have my friend Matt Baldock to thank for that. So I always have to shout him out. So actually that was a few years ago, and I actually put in my LinkedIn bio Opening Gates Small Listings, and someone DM'd me off the back of that. And I was like, there might be something in that. So that was the name of the podcast and then my business afterwards. But in terms of where it's all come from, I quit my estate agency career. It's all I'd known from '07 to Jan 2020.
So lockdown.
So lockdown wasn't even a thing. So funny story for you. When would it have been? February. Well, I quit my job on January 31st, 2020. A real Jerry Maguire moment. So I'm sat in the library car park in Newport Pagnell opposite my office. It's raining. I've got loads of missed phone calls, loads of emails I'm going back to. And my phone rings. And it is a guy called Sam Hunter, who's one of my best mates. And he was like an older brother. He still is like an older brother to me. But I felt I was missing during my years as an agent. Phone rings, it's Sam's name. And you know when someone rings you and there's someone... You'll always smile and you could be having a shittest day.
Yeah.
But they ring you. I was like, hey, mate, how you doing? And this is exactly what he said. He went, g'day, mate. Do you want a job? And I was like, what? He was like, do you want a job? I went, yeah, all right.
Just didn't even ask.
That was genuinely how the conversation went. And I went down to my office, was sat there working. And then it would have been 8, 9 o'clock on a Friday night. So obviously January, it's dark, it's miserable. And randomly, my friend is a member of a gym opposite. And he's upstairs in the gym. He takes a picture of me, WhatsApps me. And I've already sworn once, so I assume I can swear on this.
Yeah.
I think the WhatsApp says something along the lines of, what the fuck are you doing in the office at 9 o'clock on a Friday night? And It's at that point I emailed my godfather and boss and said, I quit.
How did he take that?
Not very well. No,
Have you recovered now?
no, unfortunately not
Oh,
actually. I
no.
think if I could, I had to do it the way I did it because I know that if I'd gone to see him, he would have put his arm around me and said, "You don't want to do that. It's a big mistake. Like you're building a career here." Da 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 da. And I was like, if I don't take this opportunity, I'll be sat in this desk in 10 years' time going, "What if?"
Yeah.
And I just had to take that leap of faith.
And what was the opportunity?
So joining a fun, sexy startup called Home Search, and this was pre-revenue. So I'd used the system a bit, being the estate agency data geek that I am. Got to know the system, really enjoyed it, and my first day was March 1st, 2020. So COVID hadn't moved its way into the UK, and we hadn't had lockdown at this point. I would have been at Home Search for a few weeks before that happened. But in the February, whilst I was in my notice period, an expat in Hong Kong was pulling out of a purchase of I don't know, 750 grand. And he said, "We've got this thing over here called COVID." And I was like, "That'll all blow over, don't worry." Obviously, it didn't blow over, but he should have bought that house because it's worth a lot more money now than
Hope
when
he's listening.
he was buying it. Yeah. So yeah, I joined Home Search, but I think to kind of answer your question of like, how did it all become to where I am now? It was not fun cold calling estate agents saying, "We've got a piece of tech. Do you want to book in a demo?" Blah, 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 blah. I'm not really simplifying it because estate agents would be getting so many phone calls from suppliers, probably pitching them a solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I definitely believed in Home Search. And then I had read Daniel Priestley's books, oversubscribed, Key Person of Influence, and I just literally ripped off what he says in the books. And you think like people pay thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds to get mentored by various people, yet you can go buy a book from Amazon for a tenner, like from Daniel Priestley, and they give away all their secrets in their book. And I just replicated what he said. So
it obviously resonated and it made total sense.
Posted a lot on social media, then started my podcast. And again, the podcast, I think the success has been a byproduct because the podcast was a hobby before and after work. I'd never done it to start a business. I did it, like I said before we hit record, I wanted to find out the answers to the questions that I felt were not being asked in the industry. And I started doing that, and 6 months into it, I got estate agents asking me if I could come consult for them whilst I was still employed. And in the end, I went, I think there's something in this that I could quit my job and still pay my mortgage. So that was March 23. So 2.5 years in now, and I've worked with 230 or so different estate agents around the UK.
Did you get the answers you were looking for?
Yeah, and still do. But I think what's amazing is when I go see estate agents, I can say, right, I've interviewed over 200 different people from across the industry, and here's what I found. So I've got all these different experiences from all different people from all different walks of life. But I felt like when I was an agent, you're
quite limited, aren't you? Because you're in your surrounds that only...
Most estate agents don't look outside the four walls of their business. And then some estate agents will get training within the industry, but a lot don't look outside of the industry. Whereas I do a lot outside of the industry on mindset, sales, psychology, marketing, hence why we first met each other. I remember reading Straight Line Selling by Jordan Belfort. And when I saw that he was coming to the UK and speaking at Wembley, I was like, I have to be in that room to hear him speak. And then actually fast forward a year later, I then spoke at a conference at Wembley Stadium.
No way.
So to hear him speak on stage and then be speaking on a stage at Wembley less than 12 months later was, pinch me moment.
I bet. Touching on Jordan Belfort, what did you think of that day at Wembley when he was there with Samuel?
First of all, he's a lot shorter
than
I thought he'd be.
Yeah.
But I say that because when I've seen him on screen, probably usually sitting down on a podcast or something, he just feels 10 feet tall because of all that energy he brings out. But I think the really interesting bit I found from him was that when he started Stratton Oakmont, you can tell what a Wolf of Wall Street geek I am now, but remembering like the name of the business. He said that like his sales team said, there's millions of objections. We can't sell these stocks and shares or whatever it is because of all these objections. And I think on the day he said what he found was there were 9 objections. So he then wrote the straight line selling system, being like, right, well, here are the answers to these 9 common objections. If you can seek out the objection, this is how to handle it. And I think that's basically how he said they made a lot of money. Obviously, not ethically and legally to start with, so not promoting that. But obviously, he served his time, and he's come back and said this is the correct way of doing it.
Yeah, minus the drugs,
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll, which makes a good film.
It's I watch it every year without fail. It's like my favourite film.
Oh, I do love it. I absolutely love it. So fast forward, after we were at that event, you then found yourself at Wembley. What were you? Tell me.
So absolute crazy man in the industry. I don't know if you're aware of him, Simon Whale.
I know who you mean.
Yeah, so crazy guy. He was doing a conference called the Kerfuffle Conference, and
Why does that ring a bell? Kerfuffle?
Kerfuffle is his company. It's kind of I'd say a confused.com for estate agents when it comes to suppliers, basically. I'd say that's the elevator pitch for them. And he had this conference at Wembley. He had Josh Vegan over from Australia keynoting, and he asked me to be a guest speaker, which was
amazing.
Awesome. And I spoke on stage in the Royal Suite just after Josh Vegan. And funny moment, actually, that in the morning, Josh Vegan was on stage and I took a picture, put it on my Instagram story here at Wembley, seeing Josh Vegan speak. And I've followed Josh for like a decade. I love what he does. And he reshared it on his story.
Amazing.
And I didn't realise I'd sent him a message, I don't know, 2 years prior. It said something along the lines of, hey, Josh, I see you're in London. I started up my own consultancy several months ago. Can I buy you a drink, coffee, lunch, dinner whilst you're in town? And I saw that message. I was like, wow, I'm now going to be speaking on stage. So anyway, fast forward a few hours later, I've introduced myself very briefly to him and I go and speak on stage. So it's just after lunch, and for anyone who's on like a speaker circuit, usually after lunch it's a graveyard shift because everyone's...
Why is that?
Just after lunch, energy levels drop,
yeah,
and people are probably thinking, when does the bar open? When can I go get a drink? Particularly at a kerfuffle conference. But I was fortunate that I was speaking on the same stage as Josh, or unfortunate, depending on which way you look at it. And I basically got up on stage after him. He hands me the microphone. I'm like, this is surreal. So I get up on stage.
Does he clock?
What?
At that point?
Clock what?
Like what we're talking about, like the message and...
But I made sure he clocked. So I basically, I'm quite nervous. My hand was probably shaking with the microphone. My voice was probably a bit croaky. But I was like, if I can land this first bit, which is not rehearsed, I just thought of it before I walked up. I was like, if I can land this, I will win the room over. And it went something like this. I was like, before I start my presentation, I just want to share something. I was posting on Instagram earlier on my story that Josh Vegan was on stage. He reshared it and I saw a message I sent to him, and the message read like this. And then I read out the message that I've already shared and I went, is Josh still in the room? And Josh like waves me back in the room and I went, yeah, and he never fucking replied. As a joke. And he kind of laughs and the audience laughs as well. And I
Thank God.
and I went, but the joke's on him because he's just been my warm-up act at Wembley.
Oh my God. This gives me great joy.
And that was like the mic drop moment. So anyway, I then recorded a podcast with him live in the Royal Suite at Wembley late afternoon. And he was like, mate, fair play, that was funny, good on you. And I was like, I didn't know how it would land. But
it could have gone terribly
it could have gone.
But it didn't.
Yeah, but I spoke at another conference just very quickly a week before with another Australian real estate legend called Tom Panos. And I was, again, a warm-up act. So I was the first on stage. And I've spoken at this event before, put on by a guy called Sean Newman. I basically said, hi, everyone, I'm Simon. I've spoken at this stage at Summit before. I must have done a good job last time. Otherwise, Sean wouldn't have booked me again. Or he might have spunked the whole budget on getting Tom Panos over from Australia. And that, again, for me was, if I land this line and the audience laugh,
yeah,
that would be like my runway to go on from there. And again, Tom had said, mate, fair play, that was a good way. I think it's called the peak end effect, where how you start your presentation, how you end your presentation is how people are going to remember you.
That's really interesting.
So, yeah.
What's your goal with doing the talks? Like forget what you're like physically there for, what you've been invited for. What's your goal because this is a big pivot and like you say, pinch me.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to get? Like,
Well, my mission statement that's all over my socials is to become the most useful person to follow for UK estate agents.
I think you are.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, I mean it. And
So-
that's why I call you my encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Like, if I think of anything agency wise, I would WhatsApp you.
Yeah.
If I just wanted to, like, know something.
And that's the exact aim there. So, you know, I get people say, oh, what's a 1 year goal, a 5 year goal, 10-year goal, financial goals, etc. And I'm like, well, I'm 2.5 years into this now. And 3 and a bit years into the podcast before launching business, and I just look at that mission statement every day.
Do you really?
And it's like, am I moving the needle forward with that? And if I am, keep going with it. Or some days I might go, do you know what? I've not been very useful to follow today because I've not posted on social media, or I've not researched any new data or content or something. So yeah, it's just always striving to be useful. I think the flip side of that, well, the same thing is just be helpful. Give out loads of helpfulness to the world, expect nothing in return. And I think in the estate agency industry, too many agents are transactional, where they want to put something out and expect something immediately.
Yeah.
And I get that from a lot of suppliers who are trying to penetrate the estate agency market. They're like, what's the secret? What's the silver bullet? And I'm like, just consistently add value, expect nothing in return. And one day it will come back to you, and you never know what doors will open.
Yeah. Out of interest, obviously, you're connected with a huge percentage of like the UK estate agents, and you must have like quite a well-rounded view of the market, given obviously they're very contrasting. Like, what's your perception? Like, I hear, weirdly, we've touched on this already, but since selling my company, I've sort of detached slightly. I think that's been me being able to move into my new chapter. So I'm not looking at data. I'm not actually looking on Rightmove or the portals. I'm not at all. So then I'll catch up with connections in agency and say, how's it going? They're all going slow. The hardest we've ever felt. And I'm like, it's really hard for me to take a call on what they're actually saying. Like, is that like limited to Poole, for example, where it's a huge second home market and everyone's running off to Dubai? Or what's your like take? Not a trick question, just from...
I think what a lot of estate agents are guilty of, and I definitely have done this in my time, is we've already touched on it, is looking within the four walls of their business. So for example, we're recording this in October. Now, let's say you look back at your October 24 and go, I did 10 sales last October and I've only done 5 this year. The market's shit. But actually, if you look at the whole town and go, well, hang on a minute, I did 10, the whole town did 100 sales in October last year and they've done 100 sales this year. So actually, I've lost market share. So what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? So a lot of time with agents, they might say, oh yeah, market's really quiet at the moment. And I go, right, what's your postcode? And I'm in MK16. I go, okay, 50 properties have been added in the last 2 weeks in your area. How many of them did you go to appraise? And they're like, 0. So it's not a market issue, it's a marketing issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, again, at the time of recording, we've got tax reform speculation, we've got the budget coming up. But there's 2 words I use frequently. They are permacrisis and polycrisis. And what they basically mean is particularly for the past, well, since I joined agency in 2007, we've gone from one crisis to another, to another, to another. And each crisis compounds to heighten the next one. So to give a few examples, the recession of 2008, then the Brexit vote, then COVID, multiple wars, cost of living crisis, all those different economic and political factors will impact. But actually, there's always a market. And it goes back to what you said earlier about there's a lot of order takers there. And actually, there is definitely still people who want to buy and sell. It's just you've got to go out there, find them, make contact with them, and be the catalyst to help them make the move.
There's no excuse in any market.
No, I
the best will survive. They always do.
You said how you've perhaps spoken to some connections you've got, and this is how market's really tough at the moment. It's one of the hardest markets I've been in. Other agents probably said that in 22, this time 3 years ago, sorry, when we had the mini budget and swap rates spiked. They would have said the same thing in March 2020 when the market closed down. A lot of central London would have said the same thing when we voted to leave the EU. And
True.
A lot would have said it in 07, 08. But I think that particularly in Britain, we're obsessed with a property market. We don't build enough houses. People are living for longer. Net migration is higher. Therefore, supply is not meeting demand, which means that there is definitely a property market.
There is. This is very enlightening, and I hope a lot of my local agents do listen to this podcast because it will be valuable.
Good.
Touching on your podcast, obviously you've met. How many podcasts have you done in total?
So released 236 and 240 something have been recorded. Yeah.
Okay, so that is an incredible number of people. And we already know that there's more men than women, but that's going to change because you're on the prowl for new women guests. Has there been a guest or conversation that has stuck with you or changed your perspective in any way?
The place my mind goes to immediately when you say that is episode 100, because it means a lot to me. It was with Professor Damien Hughes. This is a real what is it you call it? Name drop moment. I've properly dropped a name there. So Professor Damien Hughes, co-host of a high performance podcast. Massive fan of that podcast. I've been to watch it live. And I got coached by Damien in Manchester. And I asked him a question about his podcast. And at the end of the coaching, he said, Simon, you asked a question about podcast. Curious, what made you ask that question? I said, I've got my own little podcast, bit of a hobby thing. All right, tell me more about that. Explain it. I said, yeah, I've got episode 100 coming up soon. Oh, congratulations. Do you want to be my guest? And he said, yes. I was like, this is crazy.
Amazing.
I didn't believe it would happen until it did. Anyway, to answer your question, I'm on the podcast, Damien. And so actually, I'm going to give two answers to this. The one with Damien, he said something along the lines of, I can't remember what it was, the context was, but he said, what's the quickest way to lose weight? And I went, I don't know. And he went, cut off a limb. But and I was like, yeah, that's a fair comment. He went, but you'll bleed to death. He said, too many people are looking for short-term wins and doing the easy stuff will actually not benefit them in the long term. But actually those who have a long-term vision, so my thing of being on a mission to become the most useful person to follow for UK estate agents, each day it's, am I moving the needle just 1% better each day? And then Simon Squibb, who I had on, which again is another name drop.
Yeah.
Which again, I went to a book launch of his, just cold DM'd him, managed to get him on podcast. And he said to me, what is it? What is the purpose of life? I think he said to me. And I think this was a test on whether I'd read his book at this point. And I went, I don't know. And he said, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. And it really stuck with me because I was like, yeah, how many people are kind of meandering through life without any purpose? I have friends who hate their jobs, for example, and they'll struggle to get out of bed. Whereas I jump out of bed in the morning. When the alarm went off this morning for this, don't get me wrong, I'd love to snooze it and stay in bed a little bit longer. But after that, the chimp on your shoulder, I'm straight out of bed going, I can't wait to come and record this podcast because I get to have a chat with you. And, I love doing this sort of thing. So for me, that whole, what is a life of purpose? What is the purpose of life? A life of purpose. It's kind of doing what I'm doing.
Do you know what? I was having a similar reflection on my way here because it is a beautiful drive from Poole to, I always get the area wrong here. I just call it Zizzyland. And it was just, the sun was shining because it was such a dark start.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's hit hard, hasn't it?
Yeah.
4 p.m. it's dark, but this morning was so dark and I was pumped, made my coffee, did my little behind the scenes ready to drop on my Instagram and driving here and the music was blaring and I was just I'm so fucking grateful. And I was remembering times where I was sat in an office and just that frustration or that waking up in the morning being I don't want to go. I just don't want to go in. And now I'm driving to the studio to meet you. I was excited to see you because it's been a while since we've caught up and couldn't wait to hear about the esters.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know, but there's been some big risks taken. There's been some, do you know what I mean? I feel like you're the same. We've not just sort of sat there and gone, I'm just going to put up with this. If you want change to happen, you need to make it happen. You need to make those moves.
I think on that point, looking back now, I knew I was unfulfilled as an estate agent. I didn't realise to what extent until I removed myself from that environment. But I wanted to be an estate agent, as I said. I wanted to run my own branch. I wanted to buy a house, have a girlfriend, have the car I wanted to drive, and I kind of achieved all those things, and not in like a dickish way of like the person who says they sold their business for millions or billions and they've got a yacht and they were like, is that it? But I was kind of like, oh, I'm 20, how old was I? 24, 25. And it felt like from 25 to 30, I kind of, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, meandered through. I was like, oh, I got to where I wanted to. Is this it? And that, going back to a point I made earlier of when I got offered the job by Home Search, I was like, I've got to take this, because if I don't, I'm going to sit in this exact desk in 10 years' time and see life has just flashed before me, and I'm here working weekends, being miserable. But that didn't happen by chance. In 2018, I got coached. So I went out and sought coaching, so I wasn't getting it within the four walls of business I was in. That coach introduced me to Home Search.
On that note, what made you choose that coach at that time? Because this will be helpful for people that are considering, like consultants, coaches, like.
So the secretary in my office, Helen, who was like my work mum, she could see that, I kind of sound like a dick saying it, I was destined for more.
No, I don't think you sound like a dick.
And she said to me, Simon, you should check out this guy called Matt Giggs. He used to be the area director or whatever at Countrywide when she worked there. And she was like, I think you get a lot from him. So I just started following his content on LinkedIn, following him on YouTube and on his website. And funny story, I think it was 2017. I'd been stalking him for a while at this point.
You've been stalking him.
And I walked past him at the EA Masters and I was too shy to say anything. I was like, that's Matt Giggs, oh my God, at the time.
I can't believe that.
It will surprise people, but I am a shy, introverted person. So
you're really getting out of your comfort zone, like, all the time?
I think, like, now, particularly, like, doing this, I'm very much, I would say, in my comfort zone. It's who I am, but I guess everyone's got different sides to who they are. But yeah, that time I was like, oh God, that's Matt. And I didn't say anything. But then fast forward probably, I don't know, within months, I then sent an inquiry through, and then I was being coached by him. I think to this day, I'm maybe the only person or one of two who have ever invested in coaching through him out of their own pocket. So it wasn't my business.
Do businesses
pay him? So when I had the invoice and it was plus VAT, which I didn't take into account, well, I'm little old Simon employee. I wasn't VAT registered, so I couldn't claim the VAT back. But
painful.
Painful. But I got coached by him, and introduced me to Sam and Home Search. Matt is a really good friend of mine now, and he's actually a client of mine. And I can't remember the exact saying, but it's something along the lines of, work so hard that your mentors become your partners or something.
Yeah.
Which has kind of happened.
Honestly, that is real pinch me. You've got so many pinch me moments, but I love it because it's good to reflect though, isn't it?
100%.
Are you proud of where you've got to?
Yeah, I am proud. And I think actually it's quite therapeutic having this conversation because there's something called, I don't know if you would have heard of something called a hedonic treadmill. But I think a lot of high performing successful people are on a hedonic treadmill, which basically means you're never satisfied.
I feel that.
You achieve something. Like, I bet, like, when you sold your business, and you might say the complete opposite of what I'm about to say, but you probably had this moment, you popped open the champagne, you celebrated, and then the next day you go, what's next? Or maybe you already had a plan of what's next, but it's like...
No, I didn't actually.
I've had moments where I've interviewed some huge names on the podcast where I couldn't dream of having on the podcast, and then the next day you go... right, where's the next big guest coming from?
Yeah.
Because people are going, well, you had Damien Hughes, you had Simon Squibb, like, where's the next big one? And you're like, always feeling like you have to keep bettering yourself.
But even the non-big names, I'm sidetracking here slightly, there will be some real meaningful conversations and valuable ones, even from people that aren't like Simon Squibb or...
Yeah, I mean, there's loads, but I would say a couple of really meaningful ones for me are episode 1 and 2, which were recorded with Stephen Brown, who was another mentor of mine, one of the loveliest people within our industry, and then Sam Hunter, the co-founder of Home Search, and like my one of my best mates and big brother. They were two of my first guests, and I think for my 3-year anniversary special, and episode 200, I got them back on, but I got them to interview me.
Love this.
Which was really, really cool because I think they said they went back and maybe listened to the original episodes we recorded, and I was shit. I was shit. No, but as a host, like I was nervous, panicked, not really knowing what I was doing, not doing what you're doing, where you ask a question and then go, interesting, let's move on to this and whatever. And they're saying like how far I'd come over 200.
Oh, what a feeling.
Plus episodes. Yeah, and I think like there's one particular guest I had on who's a big name on the speaker scene, particularly in real estate in America, called Phil M. Jones. And for any of your listeners, I can't recommend enough his book, which is called Exactly What to Say.
Yeah.
Some brilliant language in there. But I had him on, and I said to him, why on earth have you come on this little podcast where you've never heard of me? And he said that in the email I sent him, I said something along the lines of, I've released 150 plus episodes, gone from a hobby to starting a business. And he went, that was credibility. Whereas if you'd emailed me, Simon, and said, hey, I'm starting a podcast, you want to be a guest? He'd go, no, because you're probably not going to be doing it in a few months' time. So how many episodes have you released, if I can ask?
Me, so we're filming now for season 3, and there's been 6, 12. God, I'm shit at maths. Molly, George, how many episodes? I should know this,
Roughly
Simon.
speaking, though.
So 6, 12, 30, 40, 50, 60, 17, 18, about 18 on season 3. So because it would be my dream to be pumping these out once a week. But the reality is, like, juggling a holiday letting company, consultancy, and then somehow I've fallen into the influencer world for all my sins. I just can't do it. So I've broken mine down into seasons. But I'm taking you on a tangent here. Sorry.
But let me just say very quickly to finalise that point. When you get to episode 21, you're in the top 1% podcasters in the world. Fact.
21?
21 episodes, you're in the top 1%.
Molly, George, we're not stopping her. We keep going till filming. Really?
Yeah.
I love you for stats.
There you go.
You're literally filling me with joy today. I can't wait to watch this episode back, actually, because you have given so many statistics and facts. I'm absolutely bouncing. That's so interesting, though. Going back to your point about your note on how you felt with your first 2 episodes and like when you reflect back, that's another thing where you get out of your comfort zone. Even though you're nervous, you just show up. Like, that's huge. That's like, I speak to so many, I don't know about you, but I speak to so many people that are like, I just can't do that. I just can't do that. Like, I'd be so nervous. And I'm like, but so was I. Like, my first podcast guest for season 2 was a broadcaster, an ITV and Sky presenter.
Right, okay.
I sat in that chair sweating and I held it together. And how you're feeling inside versus... I was very lucky because Alice Plunkett-Foxpert, she knows how to control the room. So she could probably sense that I was nervous and she was helping me along. But it's, look at you now, 200 plus episodes.
And that's it.
And it's like naturally taking it in your stride and you just didn't give up. You didn't go, oh, that episode was fucking shit. I'm a shit host. You just kept showing up.
I did. So it's the repetitions. And the first aim was to get to 21 episodes because I then knew that you're in the top 1%. And if you get to 21, you've kind of formed that habit and you'll keep going. But 99% of podcast episodes don't hit 21. So what I did was before and after work, 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock of an evening, in 2 weeks, roughly 2 weeks, I just hit Zoom. So for me, and it's still this way, as you know, you've been on it, it's not high production cinematic, a lovely studio like what you got here. It's just 3, 2, 1, hit record. And I just kept it simple like that. That meant I could churn out loads of episodes. And I made sure I had a big bank of episodes, a content library, so that when it went live, I was like straight in people's faces, like episode after episode after episode, and the consistency of it. Mondays to Thursdays, 6 a.m. it comes out.
Yeah. The matcha effect.
Yeah.
The power of consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to get that over to you, actually. I'd love to get your input on my new book before it goes publishes. Definitely. I'd love that. Really powerful, you know. You've got some absolute clangers that you've shared with everyone that's listening. So what's next? Like, what's next for you? Are we on that? I can't even repeat this because my brain is like a fuzzball. Did you say the hedonic treadmill?
Hedonic treadmill, yeah.
Do you feel like you're on that now?
I think I'm always on it. So an example of what I shared a few minutes ago, when I recorded a podcast in central London with Kenny Bruce, founder of Purple Bricks, a company that at one point was worth £1 billion. Ooh. I felt on top of the world. The next day, I felt like a fraud.
Why?
I don't know.
Like what's just happened?
Yeah, like and he was someone I'd chased and chased and chased. Finally got it to happen, and then the next day I was like, what's going to happen after this? So yeah, I don't think you ever get off a hedonic treadmill. I'm just comfortable knowing it is a thing, and to realise that those moments will come and accept it. And actually, I see it as a good thing. It means that I'm doing the right things. If I feel like going from that high to that low, it means I'm in the right rooms with the right people doing the right things.
Kenny Bruce, is he the founder?
Co-founder along with his brother Michael. Yeah.
So Purple Bricks was definitely a pivotal moment in why I set up my agency originally. Okay. Do you remember the fear running through all estate agents that it was going to be the death of the high street agent? That's like a whole period of time, I feel. How powerful is that? They shook up the UK.
And that's what they aim to do. And I think actually, whilst they've exited that business and it eventually ended up getting sold for £1 and it's lost a lot. Yeah, it got sold for £1 after their exit. But they've massively disrupted the industry because I think they called out estate agents for a lot of them not being very good and charging too much money. But actually, on the flip side, there are some unbelievable estate agents who don't charge enough money for the exceptional jobs they do.
Yeah.
But I think estate agencies very far behind the times when it comes to technological advancements. And it wasn't just the cheap fee that they're offering that the public loved. I think what they loved was that they're in control. They could see viewings coming through on an app or logging into a portal or whatever. They could negotiate offers and they could select their photos and stuff like that. Whereas even to this day, a lot of estate agents don't want to be too transparent with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I find it mad when an estate agent goes, I don't want to have a link to my diary on my website so someone can book their own appointments. I want to be able to speak to them to figure out if they're serious or not. It's like, yeah, but everywhere else, booking dinner, a taxi, a holiday, you're able to go onto a website and app and do it. Like so many people are going to be lost by not having the option to click a button.
Yeah, because then it becomes inconvenient. It's a hard one, isn't it? Because I always like speaking to people, not just for pre-qualification, but to build that relationship, because I hated leaving my office unless I don't like chucking mud at the wall. So I would be like, I want to speak to you. I want to build a relationship and really work out if this is right for you. And if not, I think offer you something else.
What the best people do is, best agents is use some form of automated booking system. Then once they've got those details, they build a relationship. Because if you don't have that booking system and you're a really good relationship builder, well, there's nothing to build a relationship with because they've been on your website. There's been no button to book. And they're like, it's 9:00 on a Wednesday night. And they're like, I want to book an appointment for Friday. Oh, it's not an option. I'll call them tomorrow. But then they forget because they're busy at work.
Yeah.
But they ended up on another estate agent's website that gave the option to click.
That's a top tip there.
There you go.
That's a real good top tip.
So I get a recap once a year from Calendly. They do like a Spotify Wrapped, and I use Calendly as my diary booking function. And I can't remember the exact stats, but I'm sure it's something like, based on emails that I've not had to send back and forth, I think in the first year I saved 180 hours.
Wow.
Just on saying, here is a link to your diary, choose the date and time that suits you best.
Oh yeah, you sent me one.
Yeah, and if it's, if someone's worth, easy maths, hopefully I get this right, £100 an hour, how much money have you just saved from 180 hours? £18,000 or something, for example?
I don't know, I need a calculator. Huh?
Yeah, I'm hoping I've got that right when I'm the stats man.
Yeah, you are the stats man. Yeah. You are actually impressive. I can't believe how much interesting information that you have shared. I'm a little bit enamoured, actually.
Good.
I need to watch back and take it all in properly. Yeah, I'm excited for you though. So much is going on, and you have been acknowledged as the incredible encyclopedia that you are.
Yeah, no, I try, but it's funny because you can get into like an echo chamber.
Yeah.
I was mentioning about the esters, so actually you're seeing the
I'm
same.
so jealous, honestly, jealous.
But you're seeing the same people over and over and over, so you can perhaps get in your own head of, oh, everyone knows me. But actually, I've worked with 1% of the industry, which is a great number, but actually there's still 99% to go after.
I feel like it's bigger than that. It feels so much bigger.
Well, if I said 25,000 estate agent branches, let's say, for example, or businesses, I don't know which way around it would be, and I've worked with 230, so I'd say about 1%.
It feels like so much more. But it means that you are accomplishing your mission.
Yeah.
Because that's how it feels. And ultimately, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And that's what like spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
So what is next?
What is next? Just continuing on that mission to be the most useful person to follow for UK estate agents. I've recorded a lot of video content recently.
Have you?
There's going to be a lot of video on my social media feed.
Yeah. Are you on YouTube?
Yeah. So again, I think this is a really good example for anyone like listening, watching this, who doesn't know where to start. My YouTube channel, I put on the odd podcast on there. If it's being recorded to a high quality like this,
Yeah.
I'll put it on there. I do a market update once a month.
On there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's literally me and my study at home going, here's all the data. So in early November, I will record an October property market update. It will get 50 views.
Okay.
And I have on YouTube, I don't know, 130 subscribers.
Yeah.
Even with those numbers, which will seem loads to some people and will seem absolutely nothing to others, I've picked up business through YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think we can get too caught up in the dopamine and wanting like
The
loads and
likes
loads of numbers.
followers.
But actually just keep putting the content out. And I don't know if I've said it in this conversation, but I definitely said it outside. I aim to educate, inspire, entertain. And as long as my content keeps doing that, hopefully people will keep coming through. And my aim is not necessarily to go viral. I mean, that'd be lovely, but arguably millions of views across the world isn't going to get me estate agents in the UK paying me money.
No.
So it's focusing on my demographic, which is estate agents.
But I think you're doing a really good job.
Thank you.
And you really are the most useful person.
Good.
In my mind, isn't it funny? Perception is an incredible thing. You are incredibly successful and you're definitely on your journey to getting exactly what you want. And I don't doubt for 1 second you will. But in my mind, everyone in the world knows you. And if they don't, why don't they? That's how I feel, for perception.
Yeah. Again, going back to the echo chamber thing, within the same sort of circles, so like the Esters, you'll see the same people each year going to it. Yeah, I could walk into plenty of estate agent offices and they would not have a Scooby who I am. I remember a really humbling moment was I got introduced to a group of estate agents and the person introduced me and, oh, this is Simon. You probably know him from his podcast, Opening Gates to More Listings. It was Tumbleweed.
Oh, no.
They were like, nope. And that to me, I was like,
I hope you remembered who that person was because I can't wait for the day.
but I was like,
Mic drop.
That's a humbling moment where it's like, cool, okay, there's still plenty of work to go. I think going back to the whole hedonic treadmill thing, I've still got 99% of the industry to go after.
Yeah, so there's still a lot more to conquer.
Yeah.
And you're well on your way. And I love seeing your journey.
Thank you.
I need to listen to more of your podcasts, but there are so many. And I'm too scared to listen back to my own. But I've taken note from a few really interesting things you've said today. So there's specific episodes I want to tap into that I've definitely missed. But yeah. Yeah, well, I'm so grateful that you've been here and also drove 3.5 hours to be here.
Yeah. So actually, can I make a point on that? So when I first started my business, I got a lot of advice, whether I asked for it or not, from people saying digital world we live in, do loads of Zoom calls and do group sessions so that you can maximize your hourly rate. And I just went, fuck it, I'm going to do the complete opposite of what everyone said.
We spoke about this, I'm sure, in my podcast with you. Yeah, definitely.
And we said it before here at COD. I've travelled all around the country, and being really selfish for a moment, I've come to a beautiful setting, an amazing host, fantastic studio, and then this is going to go out on your channels. There's going to be clips that I can use myself. So I would say to an estate agent, like, I'm going to be sweating the hell out of this asset. Yeah. So, I think that...
Well, repurposing, maximising every single opportunity, that is what people forget to do.
Yeah, so I think, so on that, I say to estate agents as well, like, when Leonardo DiCaprio or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they're the first two actors who come to mind, when they release a new film, do they sit in their mansion in LA and hope the millions of dollars come in? No, they travel the world doing red carpets, sweating the asset, repurposing, doing loads of interviews to make sure that it sells loads of tickets. You don't just one day go, oh, look, there's a new Leonardo DiCaprio film out at the cinema. It's been in your face because it's on TV, they're on podcasts.
Yeah.
They're on social media doing it. So when an estate agent says, market's a bit quiet, okay, go make the market. Are you posting loads on social media? Are you connecting with your marketplace?
Yeah, I agree. Just thinking about that point that you made, that someone said to you, you know, you can do this all online, like, and then you've literally gone, hang on a minute, I'm going to go out and physically interact with these people. Do you think that's been an imperative part of your process, like actually getting in front of people and building those relationships? Because it's easy to go, I'm going to set up an online platform and connect with people online. And yeah, great, wonderful. Yeah, it works. But the personal connections that you make by getting in the car, making that effort, getting in front of people, like, do you think that's been a big part of it?
100%. And I would say a couple of really good examples of this is, I'm speaking, this is my opinion, but speaking on behalf of Welsh estate agents.
Welsh?
Yeah, so I don't think I'd even ever been to Wales in my life before 2-3 years ago. And I got booked by an estate agent in Wales, who, funny enough, I first met at the Esters.
Yeah.
I met him at the Esters in 2021 or 22, whatever. And a very good example of video, personal brand. Because I was like, where's your top knot gone? You used to have a top knot in all your videos. He's like, this is a bit weird. And I saw him he's a good mate of mine now. I saw him at the Esters last week. Shout out to Jonathan Morgan. And he booked me when I first went out on my own. I drove all the way to Wales at stupid o'clock in the morning. Went and spoke at a presentation for him, and I booked out like the whole day. I think we got to lunch. He's like, yeah, sweet mate, you can go now. I was like, what? I booked out the whole day. I've travelled for like 4 hours to get here. He's like, no, that's what we needed. Like, I'm paid for a whole day, so it's fine. I was like, okay, cool. But I could tell he really appreciated, like, I've come all the way to Wales, whereas typically probably someone in the supplier space would be like, oh, come to our office in London, or let's do something online. And then another one, for an example, in Wales, who's a business partner of mine, Ross Mackenzie, shout out to Ross. I went to do some training for him and his team. So he used to have an estate agency called Laila Alexander. I'm now a non-exec director of a business he co-founded called OpenMove.
Really?
Now, our journey started where he was recommending his agents listen to my podcast, unbeknown to me. I then connected with him, had him on my podcast. He then booked me to go train his team in Wales. And then fast forward, must be almost come up to a year now of being a Ned within that business. And again, I would say, going back to the whole, I went all the way out to Wales when I didn't need to.
No.
But it's showing that appreciation. I think that, again, in the digital world we live in, AI, you can't beat in person and doing this and building connections this way.
No, definitely not. Yeah, it's a wild one online. It overwhelms me, to be honest. It's hard to manage all the channels and have different voices on different platforms. I deleted my TikTok at 150 followers, right? And until this week, I just couldn't crack it. I just couldn't crack it. And I'm like, but I'm doing so well on Instagram and on the other platforms. Like, why can't I crack TikTok? Am I too old for this? Like, what am I doing wrong? Boom, 2.5 million like views on a random video of me floating around a pool. I appreciate that's not completely relative to what I do for a living, but it's relative to 2.5 million people.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's just like, it is a weird place, the online space.
But I think just the consistency of continually showing up,
Yes.
as you do, as I do, and you never know what's the thing that's going to pop.
No.
I've put out some stuff where I'm like, that's some good stuff, and it just flops. And then there's something else where you're like, I'm not very proud of that piece of work. It wasn't my best. And then you get someone message you going, I really needed that. That was really helpful. And you're like, wow, okay.
It is quite disheartening though, isn't it? It's always the ones that you put like your heart and soul into, and then they just you're just like, why has that happened? I don't know about you, but one thing, you very much got your niche. And I think by selling the company, I went into a little bit of like la land of not really knowing who I was, because my 15-year career had like ended. And I was like, who am I? Am I a podcast host? Am I a consultant? Like, I don't know who I am. And I was sort of putting content out, and it was confusing people. They were like, who is Laila? Like, what is she doing now? I can't understand. So I feel like there has to be a direction, don't you think, with the content? The consistency and showing up is imperative for a personal brand, standard, matter of fact. But if there's no, let's call it a theme tune.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Then I feel like you could just stab in the dark, and it doesn't matter how consistent you are. Things just won't land, I think. What do you think about that? If you understand my ramble.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I think particularly, again, talking about what I know, which is the estate agency industry, we suffer a lot in the industry of magpie syndrome and searching for silver bullets, like what's the next best thing?
Yeah.
Actually just keep sticking at the thing. Like the podcast. I've seen plenty of podcasts come and go in my sort of sector, because they've probably not seen success after a few episodes, or they've not promoted it enough, and they've gone, okay, let's move on to the next fad.
Yeah.
I was watching yesterday, having my lunch, Stephen Bartlett interviewing Jurgen Klopp. So I'm a huge Liverpool fan, so watching Stephen Bartlett talk to Jurgen Klopp, it's quite funny. Jurgen Klopp said to Stephen, your first podcast episode, it got like 40 views, didn't it? Is what Jurgen Klopp said. and Steve Bart's like, yeah, it got less than 100. Look at where he's gone with that podcast and what he's built. Again, I'm a huge fan of Chris Williamson with Modern Wisdom podcast.
I was fuming when I saw you.
Yeah,
I was just like,
about that. And he has now released, I think, 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
When he first started recording, I think he was in Newcastle somewhere, just sitting on the sofa, like shitty microphone, hit and record. Now he's got cool like studios with behind the scenes stuff, interviewing people like Matthew McConaughey and all sorts of like superstars. But I think the very best keep going in that messy middle, that boring phase where you're like, is this worth it? And the ones who get through that are the ones who go out the other side and succeed.
I bloody love it. Every single guest is so unique. And we were talking about this earlier. The premise is I like to have conversations with people that I have genuinely met along my entrepreneurial journey. So it's like a comfortable conversation. You will know this. When you know someone and you know their story in depth, forget what you can Google or look up or research. There's something quite hearty about it, because you know, as a host, you can you can eke the stuff out that maybe they wouldn't have naturally led with. But I just love it. And I'm now, after this conversation, going to be like going back, counting the episodes, seeing how long it's going to take before I do my Stephen Bartlett or my Simon Gates.
Yeah, well, it just gets that 21 episodes. And I use it when I go see a estate agent. So it's interesting to see the reaction from the room. So sometimes I'll walk in, I'll go, so I'm Simon Gates. I'm a top 1% podcaster in the world. And I'll say it like that. And you'll see a reaction of people going, all right, Billy Big Bollocks.
Yeah.
And I say that to try and like, so they're like, okay, this guy's credible. But then I flip it and I go, how many episodes do you think it took for me to become a top 1% podcaster? And people would normally say hundreds. I go 21. So I'm like, you don't have to be that good to be great. You just need to be a little bit more consistent than the next person.
Mr. Statsman, out of interest, have you looked up Stephen Bartlett in terms of when he took that pivot from just 100 views? Do you know how many episodes it took him before he went and spiked?
No, but I've seen Chris Williamson post about this sort of thing on Modern Wisdom. And I went and saw James Smith, a PT, speak in London earlier this year. It was really interesting. He played on screen his first ever video, which was shockingly bad.
Was it?
And then he showed a graph of like how many views he got, and it was just like that, just nothing. And then all of a sudden it popped. And the question I usually ask of a lot of people is, what was that one defining moment that made it pop? I don't think anyone I typically interview has said there was a defining moment. They just go, just consistently. It's something like like nothing happens, then it happens slowly, then it happens all at once.
Yeah.
And it's like compounding is invisible. And you don't see it until it's compounded massively. And I think it's a very quick example on that. I had Grant Bates on my podcast, who is, I think, the most followed estate agent in the UK on Instagram.
Interesting.
He must have about 400,000 followers.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think?
Because he's been relentlessly consistent with his content. And it was funny because I revealed to him, I said, do you remember this date? And he was like, oh God, are you tricking me? Is it like an anniversary or my child's birthday? I said, no, it's nothing like that. And I think he might guess in the end. He said, was it the first time I posted on Instagram? I said, yeah. And I said, what about this date? And he was like, is it my first video? He's like, oh God, that first post, that first video, they were dreadful. It was just my mum who liked them, he said. Aww. But now, 400,000 followers and millions and millions and millions and millions of views. And, you know, he's brilliant at what he does, but he has just been boringly consistent.
But it works.
Yeah. Well, I think
Slandered.
It's credibility, it's trustworthy, you keep showing up. I would like to think with my podcast, Mondays, Thursdays, 6 a.m, as I've already said, I'd like to think if an episode didn't get released on Apple or Spotify by midday, someone might message me going, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Just because of that sheer consistency.
Yeah. It is the absolute number one of absolutely everything. The bones of everything in life, really. Not just podcasts, not just posting, like just showing up. I think when we had our chat, when you interviewed me, we spoke about the power of routine and I mean, we all go off on a tangent, don't we? But it literally is. Consistency is key, even when we go off tangent and then have to rein ourselves back in.
I think it's the most underrated form of marketing there is out there. And I will never get bored of seeing people at events who go, you're everywhere.
No, that's what you want, isn't it?
That's what I want, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to think that in your mind, you're boring your audience by repeating the same message. That is a real, even I go through that. I don't know if you do, but you have that moment where you're like, fucking hell, I'm banging on about the same thing, but that is exactly what you need to do rather than, like you say, chasing the silver bullet, as you put it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You just need to keep hammering the same messages.
Yeah.
Because you never know who's going to pop up, do you?
It's like, I think 10% of your audience, roughly speaking, are going to see your content. So arguably you've got to post 10 times a week on one channel for someone to see something once. So it's the spotlight effect. You think that everyone is watching you, but actually they're more interested in themselves. So don't, again, anyone listening and watching, don't worry about posting too much and it being the same old content. I panic sometimes when I go see estate agents, particularly if they've been in a room and see me speak before. I'm like, oh God, are they going to go, all right, mate, one trick pony, you've said that before. I had it a few weeks ago where they're like, Simon, I've seen you speak before. You added loads of new stuff, but there's so much stuff you told me before, which I started doing at work, but I stopped. So it's a really timely reminder. So
yeah, and you needed to hear that again.
Yeah.
And that energy in the room.
Yeah.
Do you love what you do?
Yeah, absolutely love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. So there's a Japanese concept called ikigai. And I probably get this wrong, but find something you love, that you're good at, that there's demand for and people will pay for it. That is ikigai. I'd like to think I'm okay at what I do. I love it. There's definitely a demand for it because estate agents do need to be better. and there's clearly people who are going to pay for it because they've had 1% industry invest in it so far. So yeah, again, anyone listening, watching, like figure out what your ikigai is. And I think in the world we live in today, you can potentially earn money off of a passion of yours.
Definitely. What do you think agents come to you specifically for? What's your niche? What's your speciality?
They will typically probably come to me for lead generation. They think they need more leads into their business, which might be the case if they're a brand new business or relatively young. But actually, when older businesses come to me, I'm like, let's just part the lead generation thing to one side. You might not need to spend any money on marketing. Let's look at the business. Let's look underneath the hood, because might say, oh, how many properties you sell a year, and they go 100. Okay, cool. And how long have you been going for? 10 years. Okay, right. So there's 1,000 people who've bought a home through you, who technically are now a homeowner in your area. Have you picked up a phone and spoken to any of them? Because on average, 3% of people move every year.
Yeah.
So there's probably there's a few people in there who actually would make a move, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't talk to them. Right, okay.
That baffles me. Courtesy calls were part of my standard blueprint.
Yeah, it's also the easiest prospecting to do, because they're people who already know, like, and trust you. And this isn't why I do it, but on Facebook and LinkedIn, you get a notification each day saying this is whose birthday it is. I sent a birthday message to someone on the sofa earlier before we hit record. I genuinely know I've got at least one piece of business from saying happy birthday to someone.
Yeah.
Where they kind of loosely knew me and they went, thanks for the birthday message. Like, I was actually asking someone recently who works with you if you're worth booking. And then it's very timely that the birthday message comes up. And then when I did training with him and his team, it's like, is that an automated service you have set up? I was like, no, literally a notification tells me it's your birthday. Just say happy birthday.
This is when I know how, with the rooted morals and values in agency, we are so aligned. I'm like looking at you smiling, thinking, even now, I've still got my reminder system for every single client's birthday. And even now, I might not be directly looking after their property, but I will send them a WhatsApp or jump on a call and say happy birthday. How do you remember that? I'm a magician.
Yeah.
How do you know? But it means so much, and they will never forget. And it makes such a difference, doesn't it? And you never know what doors that's going to open.
There's so many doors that have been opened through indirect conversations. Like, you might say happy birthday or grab a coffee with someone who's not going to make you money instantly. That's not why you do it. And then they tell someone about you.
Yeah.
And then it snowballs from there. But I think, too many people are looking for quick wins. How can I make money? It's wake up each day and go, how can I help someone today? Yeah. Expecting nothing in return. And I promise you, if you do that every single day, you will start to see a return on your investment.
Absolute premise and blueprint of my company. And it's quite interesting how many agents don't do what we see. To me, that was second nature. I was doing that. Do you know what's crazy? When you feel it in your bones and you're in it for the long term, you do all of these things just naturally because you want to, because it's elevating service as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I can't believe the number of agents that don't do the most simple things that could actually be hugely beneficial, like you say. Like, if you want to be in the long game.
Yeah, it's just such a transactional industry and not thinking of 1, 5, 10 years ahead. Just a quick tip for if there is any agents listening, or anyone really, but write down on your page MSD, make someone's day. Like, each day, how can I make someone's day better? And then I'd also recommend like a pay it forward campaign. So, like, for example, if I was an estate agent again tomorrow, I would go to not a Costa or Starbucks on my high street, but I'd go to the local independent coffee shop. I'd say to the manager, here's whatever the number is, but here's £100 to put behind the counter for the next £100 worth of customers that come through your door. I want you to pay for their coffees with this money, and I don't expect anything in return. And they're probably going to walk in, can I get a flat white, please? Yeah, that's £4. But it's been paid forward by Simon Gates. Why has he done that? No reason. And that person might be going through the shittest day of their life, and that coffee is exactly what they needed. And again, it's not why you do it, but they might post that on social media, and that might then go viral.
Also, you do get an incredible amount of, like, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Help me, Simon.
I know what you mean.
You're a man full of words.
It's not satisfaction,
but along those lines, like...
Yeah, I know what I mean. But yeah, you get a satisfaction from helping someone, and expecting nothing in return.
I mean, you get great joy from that, seeing other people. Yeah. And it just comes back. It's just that karmic effect, isn't it?
A selfless deed.
Yeah.
That's what we're, I think, thinking of.
Yeah. And we're talking about it in a prospecting basis for people to understand, literally, like, you do good, you receive good, quite frankly, is the layman's terms.
A really good simple sentence that I use a lot, which is from Josh Vegan in Australia, is prospecting works best when it feels like a service. So if you're just phoning up someone going, hey, do you want to sell your house? No. Okay, fine. You're ringing someone, hey, Laila, did you know that property prices in your town have gone up 10% in the last year? You built up a bit of equity.
Yeah.
Could that mean anything to you? Could you buy an investment property? Could you release some money to go on a nice holiday? Could you buy a bigger property? That's prospecting working best when it feels like a service. But if you're just transactional going, do you want to sell your house? No, phone down.
I mean, yeah, you just wouldn't, would you? If you were the shoe on the other foot, you wouldn't if you got a call like that.
Yeah, you'd, in the end, when that phone number keeps coming up, you're going to go, well, they add no value to me when they ring me. They're just asking, am I looking to sell my house? Eventually, you're just going to stop returning the phone calls. Yeah. Whereas you see someone, you go, that person always offers incredible value. They're going to take the phone call.
Just before we wrap up, did you ever do cold calling in agency? Before the data protection malarkey? Like...
Well, was
I just raised by crooks?
No, I don't. For me, I don't think there was ever such a thing as cold calling an estate agency where I was, because the business is now established probably 60 years.
Wow.
So quite a few decades when I was there. So you had a database full of people who you could pick up the phone to because they originally were in that database because they'd inquired to sell the house, rent a house, or buy a house.
Yeah.
Whereas when I joined Home Search, I was like, this is proper cold calling. So you're ringing estate agents who have not inquired about your services saying, can I sell you a product? Obviously, it wasn't as blunt as that, but it made me laugh when an estate agent would go, how have you got my number? And you're like, it's on your website. Like,
it's so funny.
This is mad. You think like that. So,
did you have a good conversion rate with the cold calling for Home Search?
No, I was rubbish at it, which is why I realised rather than doing what some really good BDMs were doing, which was, I don't know, 50 calls, 100 calls a day, and I could book a lot of appointments. That's where I implemented Daniel Priestley's key person of influence and oversubscribed. I went, rather than me chasing down people, I want to attract them to me. So I started participating in the Facebook group, started posting on LinkedIn. Then I started my own podcast Facebook group, and I started getting people messaging me going, I see your content online. I'd love to find out more about Home Search.
Yeah.
It was like, that for me worked a lot better than cold calling.
Yeah. You're very interesting. Honestly, my mind's going to be in overdrive all the way home, just thinking about all the stats. Did your brain hurt? Imagine being you.
It goes at 100 miles an hour. I'd say the only real time I switch off, I'd say, is when I'm on the golf course.
Really?
So yeah, on the golf course, just completely switch off from it.
Have you got a supportive partner?
Very supportive. I wouldn't have done what I've done without having a supportive partner, and I think it's a common theme for anyone successful.
I was hoping you'd lead into this.
That I've interviewed on the podcast. It's funny that a lot of estate agents, I asked a question where it's like, oh, it's interesting that you launch your own business and you're in partnership with your life partner. How's that? And they're like, well, it's obviously, it's not always sunshine and roses, whatever the saying is, but they're like, and also if someone has quit their well-paid job to go pursue a dream, let's say, it's like, and how did your partner react? And they're like, yeah, obviously I had the concerns, but they were all for it. So yeah, I think having a support, whether it's a partner, friends, family. I interviewed a brilliant person on podcast recently, a girl called Lottie Foden, who's up in the Stoke area, and she said what did she say? It takes a village. So she launched she'd be a brilliant guest actually. She launched a lettings
Oh,
business.
we'll have to meet, Simon. Somehow you're going to
Yeah,
have to connect us because we know the premise of this.
she started a lettings business a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, how was that? What was that like? And she's like, it took a village. She had a really supportive network who helped make it happen.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah.
How old is she? Do you know?
I'm going to
young?
say mid to late 20s.
Good for her. Love to see and hear this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to share me her
I will
social
do.
handle. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Love to connect. And I love seeing like young women, especially in this industry, because it is, I know it's moved forwards with the times, but it has
Still a long way to go.
there's a long way to go. It's great to see like women, female managers and females setting up their companies, but it's still few and far between.
Yeah, I think
And they all have to be masculine energy, facts, to succeed in a state agency.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could feel free to disagree, but
Well,
I'm pretty sure it's masculine energy vibes to be able to compete or be taken seriously in our industry.
The company I worked in, so it was like 12 branches, and a lot of my career as a negotiator, my branch manager was female. She was a female boss, like quite a short lady, but she'd be in the room with all these old men, and she normally had some of the best results within the company. But I saw her as, well, she was my boss, and I didn't realise there was a gender issue within this industry because I was in an office full of powerful women for a lot of my negotiator career. It's only when I've perhaps come into the supplier world, speaking to a lot more women, realising the underlying issues that still exist today. But I think, can I call it a movement? I think it's the right thing. Things like Women in the State Agency, and they have the conference, which is not a conference. That's something I'd 100% recommend you should attend. I think their next one is in March, but they've now got, I think, over 4,000 women within the industry in a Facebook group, which is insane.
I love to see it. I honestly remember, I couldn't tell you the year because my memory is just horrific. But early days in agency, I was in a completely male-dominated office, which I actually feel way more comfortable in. Even now, I would. And I would be negotiating a deal, and honestly, on at least a handful of occasions that I can recall, men would say to me, "Put your manager on the phone."
The man on the other end of the phone. Wow.
Yeah, the client. Even though I'd like absolutely hustled, I was so excited to tell them like how I'd put this deal together and like I'd overachieved, and they wouldn't speak to me. Yeah. They would not speak to me. And to be honest, the penny didn't really drop till afterwards. And I looked back and thought, holy shit, wow. And when I set up Silver Birch, I called out a lot of nonsense where there were fake reviews on Google and stuff, because I was such a small agency. Like I knew everyone personally, tenants, landlords, vendors, buyers. So when a fake name pops up, it's just people up to no good. And I do remember someone writing, "This agency's been set up with Daddy's trust fund. Right. It's going to last 5 minutes." Don't know how I managed to get that off, but I was like, holy shit, like I'm seriously going to make some moves here as a young female. I was like, well, this, I don't need to tell you, but I was 25 when I set up my company, and then became the most reputable letting agency in one of the most wealthy areas in the whole of the country. And all of the other agency owners were men, middle-aged men. Madness. Yeah. Absolute madness. So it's nice that it's moving in that direction, but it's interesting to hear from you that there's still work to be done.
Well, I think that's why what you do is so amazing and where I'd love to see more women like what you're doing, what Lottie is doing a few years behind you, and many others, to be that figure who inspires the women to believe they can go do it. Because what you just said about that experience, it's not acceptable. But I also, there's kind of a positive, negative. I imagine it spurred you on to go,
100%.
fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong
Yeah.
and achieve what you did.
But it would be nice to have soft energy. You've got to be strong in any career, I think. But I feel like it would be nice to have more soft feminine energy. Whereas I've always led with, I'm actually very soft and feminine when I take my work suit off. But at work, to be taken seriously in this field, I've had to lead with real masculine energy. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's the only way you're taken seriously. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see more women. I think when you go to the awards, though, you do, I don't know, it feels different. It feels less male dominated. You might have a different perspective on that as a man. But
No, I would say the Esters definitely, I would say, I would like to say a pretty even split of women to men there. I would say there's other events where it's very male, pale, stale. And I can think of one event last year where there was genuinely a man asleep in the 100% in the exhibition hall. And I was like, I don't know what's worse, that this guy's fallen asleep or that it's so bad what's on stage that he's fallen asleep. Like who's worse there?
The Esters is good fun though, isn't it?
It is good time. It takes a few days to recover, but it's worth it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So my last Esters was last October.
Yeah.
Before I sold the company, and we won again, and that was amazing. I mean, it was a good laugh. But I remember the first ever Esters I went to, and I was so proud to even just be there, especially as like a 25-year-old female. And I booked a table. And I took my dad, like my family friends, and like my very small team. And I remember the bill came at the end. Obviously, you prepay for your tickets and stuff, but obviously there was other stuff that we'd ordered. And they put it in front of my dad.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's just natural, they just put it in front of my dad. And my dad started laughing. And the guy's sort of looking at him like, what's funny, mate? And he just like picked it up and put it next to me and he went, she's paying. And he was just like, what? And I remember being outside I smoked then. I was outside having a little ciggy in my really nice dress. Rank. So rank. And some middle-aged men were like, oh, who do you work for? And I'm very like, I was just like, oh, how do I answer this without coming across like a twat? No, I'm here for my company. What do you mean? There was a lot of that at the beginning, but yeah, it's incredible how things change, hey?
Yeah, well, fair play to you. It's like, how can I say this? I really try to understand a variety of different perspectives because, I'm not naive when it comes to, I'm a white middle-class man. I've kind of won the birth lottery in that sense. And, there'd be billions of people who'd swap places with me. And to hear what you said, a couple of things of the bill being put in front of your dad, being outside and people saying, who do you work for? The guy on the phone saying, can I speak to the manager? Like, yeah, I'm not surprised by it, but it also shocks me equally at the same time, which is why I want to have more female guests and have more female listeners and try and make sure that we're on the right trajectory within our industry. But yeah, we've still got a long way to go.
I'm behind you with that. So anything I can do to support you in getting more female listeners, guests on your podcast, because you're awesome, especially if they're an agency. In fact, when we wrap up now, I've got a good idea for you. Cool. I've got a really good one.
Sweet.
A really good starter. But cool. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I literally can't wait to listen to this back.
Cool. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Can we hug?
Yeah, of course.
Are we allowed?
I think my leg's gone a bit dead, but thank you very much for having me.